Alright, hello everyone, welcome back to Bangers, Bops, and Banter. This is episode 69. It's our
Nice.
first thing in like half a year.
Nice.
It's been a while, and yeah, we haven't uploaded much this year. Brendan's been uploading, I haven't.
I wish I'd upload more. I have like a script written out for another like let's talk about video, and I just never filmed it because like I moved and then school started and like it's been messy.
Yeah. But yeah, we're back. Maybe we'll actually start doing this more regularly.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Probably not every week, but maybe let's shoot for like maybe once or twice a month. How about that?
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, also we hit 100 subscribers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Let's throw a
maybe
party.
sometime we'll do that. We promised to do like greatest movies of all time, or not greatest movies, greatest albums of all time tier list.
Yeah.
I think both of us are only like a bit over halfway through it for all the albums, so that will happen
Yeah.
eventually.
It will. It's a long list.
Yeah. But yeah, stay tuned.
Yeah.
Sometime within the next, it will happen. Yeah. Editing,
Yeah.
I don't know. Brendan, if you wanted to edit this, you can put in however much time you feel is appropriate in there.
Oh man, it will be a while, but yeah.
Anyway, with that, we're back, and we have a movie to talk about.
Yes,
We're
in fact the movie of all time, Avatar.
Yes, the greatest movie ever made.
Greatest movie because it's the highest grossing. So because it's the highest grossing, that means that it's the greatest.
Yeah.
Those two things are equivalent.
If you make a lot of money, your movie is good. That's how it works.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why indie films can never be good because they don't make money.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
All indie films are bad, and all blockbusters that make at least $1 billion are masterpieces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's actually like Avatar is really the only like 10 out of 10 movie to ever exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna explain why. Because this is one of the most boring and forgettable movies ever made. That is also not very good. I get. Okay, so I understand. This was released in 2009, and I understand. It looks very good, considering it was made in 2009. Like, it's very impressive.
This movie is incredible.
Like, it's like one of the first movies to make a very convincing, like, world.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like, fully, like, visually, like, animated world, basically.
Yeah.
It's convincing. And that's the only thing that's like notable about it at all.
As far as like the history of the film, yeah, I would say so. I'm gonna say my 2 cents. So I saw this movie back in theaters in 2009 when it first came out, and I had a great time watching it in theaters. And I don't think I ever expected to watch Avatar again, and I didn't need to ever watch Avatar again. Before we rewatched this movie yesterday, I could not name 2 characters that were like the names of 2 characters in this film. I remembered vaguely the plot because it's very simple actually. I think some children's books have a more complex plot than this movie.
Yeah.
And the overall messaging of the movie I remembered. Yeah. And there were like a few specific scenes that like stuck with me because they were like visually impressive, like in the theater. Mostly during like the final fight, which
I will say the final fight is the only part of the movie that I actually thought was like enjoyable.
Yeah. That's definitely fair.
It's I had never seen this movie before. I just heard about it because it's kind of become like a joke.
Understandably so, yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's the highest grossing movie of all time, and no one remembers a single fucking plot detail from it.
Yep.
So, yeah, so this movie, I will not lie to you. This movie looks like if you searched, like, I don't know, if you went on YouTube and you searched video game cutscene compilation, if you just looked for, or it's like Batman Arkham Asylum, all cutscenes, like, that's what this looks like. Is, like, the entire movie looks like a giant video game cutscene.
Yeah.
And it's not that it is entirely CG. That is not the thing. It is the camera work is, like, mostly... It is mostly, like, on the ground. Like, when it's just, like, characters talking and stuff, it's, like, handheld camera work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, like, moving around the characters as, in, like, the 3D visually animated scene. And that is, like, the same exact thing that so many video games do. That it just looks like a shitty video game cutscene. It's like, I don't know why. It's really distracting. Especially because the camera work is really bad at points. Like, really bad. Impressively bad. It's not so bad when it's, like, animated. But in, like, the scenes where it's just characters, like, the human characters in the environment, or in, like, the base and stuff, places that are actual sets, the camera work is distracting at points. Like, it's bad.
Like, the first third of the movie, essentially, it's not... there's nothing interesting going on as far as the camera goes, and it's honestly just taking away from the scene, the characters, the conflicts and emotions between characters, I would say.
Yeah. It's also just, like, I don't know, it just, at points, the editing feels off. Like, there's conversations that I guess sort of remember. I don't really remember what was said at all in the movie. Oh, man, people say, like, they watch this and then just forget about everything that happens the next day. Yeah. That's happened with me. I don't remember shit.
Can you name 3 characters? Like, not the actors, but the actual character names.
Okay, no, I can. So there's Jake Sully.
Okay.
There's Neytiri,
okay.
However you say it. And then there's Grace, I remember.
Grace. I don't remember Grace's last name, but she was named Grace.
Yeah.
Do you remember the name of the antagonist?
The army general? I literally can't. I don't know what his name is. I don't remember anyone other than those 3, actually.
Papa Dragon. That's his name.
His name's what?
Papa Dragon.
Oh my god.
That's not actually his name. That's just what he called himself.
Yeah.
Which is great. It's a great sex name.
There's...
I feel like that would be like an OnlyFans or something. I don't know. I would go on OnlyFans. I don't know how people name themselves. Do they name themselves Papa Dragon on OnlyFans?
Maybe. Perhaps. I don't know. Man, I'm thinking about it. I literally can't think. I can't. Like, I can't remember anyone else. I don't know anyone else's name. I'm trying...
Fast and Furious was named Trudy. Sorry.
Michelle Rodriguez.
I wanted to call her Letty.
Oh my...
I feel bad. Because Michelle Rodriguez, she's a great actor. But man, I just love Fast and Furious.
There's knockoff Vin Diesel.
There is knockoff Vin Diesel. I don't even know if he has a name. I don't
think he does. Maybe he does it at, like, the very beginning. I don't remember it. I just remember he gets, like, stomped to death.
Yeah.
Which was funny. There's the
Max.
guy.
The scientist dude was named Max, I think.
Was he?
Maybe.
Oh, I don't remember him being named Max. Maybe he was, but I don't remember it.
I don't even know.
I don't know. I feel like that's the thing is, like, I feel like Neytiri and Jake Sully I remember not because I know their names from the movie,
but because it said so much.
No, it's because they're like a meme. Like Jake Sully's a
Oh,
meme. Like
okay, that
him
makes sense.
being like the most forgettable character in existence is a meme, which is
Yeah.
true. He's the single worst character I have ever seen in a movie. I don't mean in terms of like being like a bad person, as in
No.
like he kind of is in this movie, um, but
Are we gonna get
as
into like the white savior thing, or are we gonna save
well
that for later?
we'll save it for later. But he's like he doesn't have a character. I don't know how to
No,
describe. He's the Sam
he's
Worthington gives
he
like
is
one of the
blank.
worst performances I've ever seen. It's the most boring, bland white guy you can imagine.
I think, like, I think that he was directed that way.
Yeah,
Cause
I don't think it's him. I think it's just
yeah,
like
I think
he
he was just directed to
has.
like be a mannequin essentially.
Yeah, I don't know. You just don't care
Mhm.
about him at all because he's like not interesting. I
No,
guess he's like at the beginning he's like because like he's a disabled veteran.
yep,
He can't use his legs. Um, but then like at the beginning it feels like they're setting something up where maybe he's like an alcoholic or something like that because he's like in a bar and he gets thrown out after like beating up some guy. Um,
no, I think that was like looking back on it, it's just a setup that he has a good heart because he like stood up for the girl against the
oh
guy.
yeah, I think they could
The
have done
bar doesn't
something. If
actually
he was an
matter.
alcoholic, it would be a lot more interesting.
I wish it was. I wish Jake Sully had actual conflict.
Yeah, that's also the thing. It's weird. You'd think like there'd be more emphasis on like him being able to walk again, like him being like, "Holy
I
shit!"
mean, there's like that one scene, like the very first scene where he gets his legs and he just runs off, and then
Yeah,
they never really talk about it again.
yeah, but it's like even in that scene, it's like he's like, "Oh, I can use my legs," and then he just goes. It's not like a holy shit moment for him.
Yeah.
Like a wow, I can't believe I can do this. Um, like you'd think like there'd just be more to it. I don't know. It's also weird because it feels like he's kind of living. It feels like you could do something where him, like being he's like living through the like avatar body or whatever,
hmm
um, like vicariously almost, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and like,
Like you
so
maybe
I
there'd
think
be something where it's like the reason he doesn't want to give it up is because it gives him this like new life basic. I mean, I guess it does, but like
it does, but it doesn't really explore that. Like, it just.
yeah,
I think the movie tries to make that point when because he like stops eating with his human body and whatever.
yeah, but it's
But
not.
like that that's never like becomes a real conflict.
Yeah,
He's never in danger of like actually dying in his human body. He has one conversation with Sigourney Weaver where Weaver is like, eat up, and he's like, fine, mom. And like that's it. That's the end of that.
yeah,
I don't know. It's like this movie just it's like they didn't care about the plot. I don't think they cared about the plot. I think James Cameron was just like, I want
the
to make a movie.
visuals. He wanted to make a
I want
world.
visuals, and that's all. And the plot was just there to string along visuals,
Yeah,
which, like I said, sitting in a theater in 2009 makes for a cool experience. Um, Anytime after that does makes for a terrible experience.
yeah,
So it's frustrating, like going back and watching this film now. I would say.
yeah.
Uh,
Um, yeah. I don't know. They just it's weird because like it feels like other characters have some personality to them.
yeah,
And it's also definitely one of the things that annoys me is like other actors actually give performances. Like
yeah,
Zoe Saldana is like actually like going in with her performance at points.
it's pretty good. Yeah,
But then like just we're following the guy who's like the least interesting.
mm-hmm.
and maybe the point was to make him not interesting, so the rest of the world, by comparison, is really interesting. But I don't think that's a good idea to do in a movie, unless you're trying to make a specific point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Other thing, I don't know. I didn't like basically anything about this movie except for I like the general.
The general's funny.
He's just funny. He's like a funny antagonist. I like him as an antagonist
because he's over the top military man, and he
Yeah.
does that well. They made an over the top military man. It's like, okay, yeah, I can get behind over the top military man.
It's also clear the actor, I don't remember his name, but he's like loving what is it? He's just having a ton of fun with his performance. But yeah, I guess the final battle is like fun in how stupid it is at points.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a really over the top action. It's a nice looking action scene, like big set piece. But it doesn't have any emotional weight to it at all.
No,
really?
None at all. Like, you are, as a viewer, you are not invested in one side or the other. Like, the movie tries to make you invested in, like, the natives, or what are they called, the Na'vi.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to, because everything is so bland.
Yeah. I think the only thing, it would be, like, way cooler if this movie was just, like, a nature tour. Like, it's, like, you're, like, looking at, like, all the animals and stuff on Pandora. It's like make a nature documentary, but with Avatar. With Pandora. Make it, have Dave Attenborough do the voiceover, and then you're golden. I'd go watch that. That'd be cool. Yeah, I don't know. Other than that, this movie's hard to talk about because there's like nothing to talk about.
There's like
except
almost a 3-hour movie, and it's hard to find things to talk about.
Yeah, I think the only thing to talk about now is that it's kind of racist.
Yeah,
it is very white saviory in a way that is very weird because like Jake is absolutely the villain.
Mm-hmm.
And then the movie is like, no, he's not. Because he literally sells out Navi. Like he gives the humans in the military all of like the details about their home tree, basically,
which is essentially like their fortress.
Yeah. Gives them all details
tells them
about
how to destroy their fortress and their home.
Yeah.
And then he's like, no, guys, I didn't want this to happen. Haha. I just wanted you to leave.
Like, yeah, and he basically spies on them, never tells them about this. And then he has to gain their trust back, so he conquers this big bad flying creature.
That's only 5 people in the history of their entire race have been able to conquer.
Yeah. And then he like gains their trust back, and then unites all of the tribes
because he's one of the 6 now.
Yeah, because of that. Apparently. And then defeats with him at the reins. They defeat the humans. And it's very weird that they just forgive him for like the awful shit he's done to them. Mm-hmm. And it's also because I understand, because on the one hand the idea of like your protagonist is doing bad things and then slowly learns to like be good, basically like change their ways, is like kind of a trope in a lot of Hollywood writing.
Yeah.
Whereas like they're like a double agent and then they get sympathy for the other side or whatever. But it really doesn't work here when they become like the hero and leader of all of the tribes of the native people, of all these indigenous groups who really shouldn't trust him at all after what he does. And also, it's very weird that the movie kind of insinuates that without the help of the white guy, there's no way they would have won, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know about it.
This movie, if they were just made, it's like I don't remember the dude's name, but the brother who becomes chief after the dad dies or whatever. They're not actually like family though. I don't remember exactly how it worked, but the dude who becomes chief, right? If he had been the one to like unite all the tribes and like do all the cool shit and lead the battle and stuff,
and
I think this movie would have worked like a lot better and not felt just so forced.
I think it also could have, like, because you could still have Jake sort of like be forgiven, where he like gives them, he like basically like tells them all about like the humans and their plans and stuff like that afterwards or something. So like, and he like fights with them, but it's not him that is doing like the battle, and also I feel like it shouldn't be him to kill the main military guy at the end.
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, because like I understand again, like from like just an emotional like screenwriting perspective, that's how it should be. Your main character kills the bad guy and it's like a satisfying payoff, but it really doesn't work when it's like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could have done a lot to make this not nearly as bad as it is.
Yeah.
They did put a lot of effort into making the Na'vi like their own people, which I think is cool. That's nice. But yeah, I don't know.
There's like, the thing about this movie is that there's like little nibbles of stuff that's like, okay, this could be good, this could be cool. I think. But the whole sandwich is, at the end of the day, it all just tastes bland. And you don't really enjoy it, and it's also like almost 3 hours long.
That's the thing, it's so weird. There's a movie, if it was 2 hours, I don't think I would be as negative on it as I am, because it wouldn't be as painful to watch, because it's just the most boring stuff imaginable for so long. There's a bunch of scenes, there's like the second hour of the movie is literally just like training basically. Like that's the entire second hour essentially. And it's really just awful and not interesting at all. I feel like it's like, again, I feel like part of it is just they wanted to like be like, look at this cool world we're building. And look at these graphics. The epic graphics. There's so many times we made jokes about how there could just be like a QuickTime event at certain points, because that's just what it looks like. It looks like a QuickTime event screen.
Very much so.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have much else to say.
I don't really either.
I will say, if you watch this movie in theaters and you have fond memories of it, and you haven't rewatched it, don't.
Yeah,
it's not gonna.
That's a good way of doing it.
If you want to keep those fond memories of it, you just want to keep it as like this image in your mind, as this thing. Don't rewatch it.
I mean, I kind of said this at the beginning, but I truly think the best way to experience this film is in a theater in 2009. If you don't have that going for you, this probably won't be a good movie.
Sorry to everyone who can't afford a time machine. So, yeah. It's sort of a similar thing for me with like something like Endgame. Although I think Endgame is a much better movie. It's much more entertaining.
Endgame at least has a plot.
Yeah, there's a plot, and I think there's some genuinely like very nice moments, very like, what is it, like emotional moments in Endgame that make it like worth to watch the whole thing. But Endgame, I would say is very similar, where it's like in the theater, it is this massive experience you're having with everyone else, and out of it, it's, I guess, a different experience. I enjoyed it more on my second watch, interestingly, when it wasn't in the theater.
No, but it
But I
definitely
think,
was like a different vibe. 'Cause
yeah,
I
it's a
remember
different,
I watched I think Infinity War in theaters and Endgame in theaters, and both of those the theater experience was definitely felt like part of the
yeah.
movie.
There are very obvious moments in Endgame where it's like the audience is supposed to go, "Oh,"
Yeah. Oh my god, the thing. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is like not a great way to make most movies, but it was like for Endgame, I think it was like it
It
worked
worked
because it was like this
because
huge
they knew everybody
culmination.
was gonna see that in theaters. You know.
Yeah, but Endgame's also like is a movie that just structurally works so much better because it has like an emotional core and characters you actually care about
Mm-hmm.
because we've seen them so much in other movies that like you understand their personalities, and I think the writing in Endgame is better.
Yep.
Not that Endgame's like an amazing, incredible experience of a movie or anything, but it's just comparing Avatar to Endgame. It's like, what were you? What? I don't, you know.
Yeah. Once
I don't
one doesn't
understand.
look like a video game, at least.
Yeah. Endgame looks like a movie, at least for a good amount of it. Maybe
Yeah.
not the very end, but
Uh,
but yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I don't really have much more to say on this.
yeah. I mean, there's really not a lot to say.
Yeah.
Some of the CG still looks good.
Yeah.
Most of it doesn't.
I I will say most of my problems with the CG do come from just the camera movement, but there are
Yeah.
times where faces look really bad.
Yeah.
Where it's like the technology wasn't quite there to fully animate a face, with like motion capture,
Hmm.
really well. So there's times where like people will be smiling and it just looks really weird.
Yeah.
Um,
There's also times where like their um, body movements don't seem super natural. I think
yeah.
this is mostly when like um, the humans are in the avatars though.
Mm,
That when they're like doing like human things. I don't know. It's weird to
mm-hmm.
explain. But there's time where like they're playing basketball, and I was like, ooh,
Yeah. Well, I
I
think
don't know
part
about
of
that
that
one.
is like animating people who literally have like a different body shape than
Yeah.
us, while still doing like motion capture is probably very weird to
Yeah.
do. Um, since they're like they're all 10 feet tall.
Yeah.
Step on me. Um,
Please.
but
Yeah.
yeah, that's it for Avatar. I don't know. Do we want to scores?
Sure.
Um, I'll go first. I think this movie is bad.
Mm.
Just not good. I'd give it a 3 out of 10. Very bad movie. Not worth watching. I think, Brennan, you're more positive on it than me, and I assume part of that is that you had the theater experience, so you're like,
I think part of it is nostalgia because there are definitely times in the final fight, like in that final fight scene when like the cavalry first like comes over the edge. I remember being like a kid in theaters, being like, "Oh my god, that was so cool," you know.
hmm,
Um, but so like overall, I don't think this movie is that good. I'm like a 4 to a 5.
mm-hmm,
Uh, it's it's not like offensively bad most of the time, and there are some things that are good. So I don't know. I'm definitely not positive on it, but I'm not
mm,
terribly negative on it. I will avoid watching it again, like at all costs. Don't get me wrong.
yeah,
Um, there are movies that I would rate lower that I would rather watch,
mm-hmm.
which I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, that's just how I feel about
It's
it.
not so much that Avatar is like worse than those movies. It's just that it is so much longer. Basically,
That's
I think
definitely
again,
part of it.
my rating would probably be
But the thing is,
higher
like,
if it was not like almost 3 hours. Like if it wasn't so
yeah,
long, it would be a much more um like easier to. It would be a lot easier to digest it being so boring, and also I think some of the boring stuff would be cut out, so it wouldn't be as boring.
That would definitely help. Most part of it is I would rather watch a movie that's bad but at least tried to do something interesting than a movie that is kind of bad but also just bland.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's it. I don't think we have anything else
No.
for the podcast. Yeah. All right. I guess that's it. We're back at it. When
the
will
boys
the
are back in town.
Yeah, we don't know. Whatever we're doing next week, or maybe in 2 weeks. I don't know. We'll see. We're not sure yet. But hopefully we do this more regularly. Because it's fun. It's enjoyable. So yeah. I guess with that, I don't remember what outro I used to do. Thank you for watching or listening, and I hope you have a wonderful night. That was it, right? That was the outro I used to do.
I thought we always did. Hope you have a good day. At the end.
Hope you have a good day. Maybe it was. Anyway, bye bye.